Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Behind Enemy Lines Hockey Podcast. It's been a while, crazy holiday season. Today, we're going to talk about just give a general news update of what's happened over the last week or two with Montreal, in regards to trades, injuries, everything in between, and scores and stuff like that. We'll even touch on it's Sunday night. The Montreal Tampa Bay game just finished, so we'll touch on that as well. As always, I'm joined by Steve, and welcome, Steve, all the way from down south.
Yes, well, it's good to be back. Co-hosting these podcasts, it's a dream. If you're not a hockey player, you want to be involved, and we get to talk about it, and nobody can tell us to shut up. So it's a great thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while, and like you said, holidays get in the way, sicknesses, longer or adjusted work hours. So that it's been there's been a little bit of a whirlwind. So we can dive into it and put couple spins on some things and let's lead some people down a path that maybe they already are comfortable with, but we can definitely open up a can of worms.
Okay. So let's dive right in. What's today's trivia question for us?
Well, like you said, hot topic. We just finished a game. We are probably not even an hour after the shootout loss to Tampa. So we'll keep it Tampa Bay related. What current Tampa Bay Lightning player has the most career points against the Montreal Canadiens? So current roster player.
We probably really hate that guy, to be honest with you. If it's a
If he's on Tampa, we hate him.
yeah,
There's only a couple of them. I will give a shout out to former hometown player Anthony Cirelli, who plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And ironically enough, I'm wearing the Oshawa Generals sweater tonight, and that's where our hometown junior team is based out of, and he helped win us a Memorial Cup. So kind of hard to hate that guy.
liked him then, but don't like him now.
No, I don't like him when he's playing us,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I can like him every other time.
yeah. Okay. So let's dive right into tonight's game. As everybody, I'm sure, is aware, if you've watched, it was a 5-4 shootout loss. I'm just going to say one thing really quick. I thought Montreal stole a point here tonight. I mean, they were down, I think it was 3
We
nothing at
were
one point,
three
uh,
nothing and 4-1. But
and
I'm
4 to
I'm
1. But I
I'm
just
gonna
want to say, I'm not blaming Fowler on those goals. I mean, you had a breakaway goal that Kucherov, who's probably one of the best snipers in the game. You had some pretty unlucky bounces, things like that. So those goals, I just want to say, to me, they're not Fowler's fault. They're going to count against him, obviously, but I'm not hanging out on him.
yeah, I'm not gonna say we stole a point. We deserved a better outcome for those reasons. I
Mhm.
mean, we were all over Tampa in the first period. Shots on goal were 10-3.
Mhm.
And it was Timmy's donuts going into the second period. And then they get a broken stick. Demidov goes to T1 up. That ends up turning into a breakaway, and that dirty son of a gun Kucherov gets a breakaway goal. And no matter what Fowler does, he's dead for rights. He's still a young kid learning these guys, and the game is played under those circumstances way faster.
Mhm.
We had a ricochet off a linesman that went Tampa's way, I think, and then shortly after that, Demidov broke another stick. Bolduc broke a stick. I don't know if it's humidity or our sticks were still in Quebec temperatures, but for some reason in the Tampa in the Tampa arena, that we just had a lot of bad puck luck. What I did like,
Yeah.
third period, we were all over them. And we can, for the 37 people listening at home, and making their significant others listening as well, we appreciate you. But you have to be effective with the lineup you have. Yes, Tampa's playing with three, I think, irregular rookie defensemen, but we're playing with guys that are castaways, throwaways. We have guys hurt as well. It is what it is. That's part of the game.
Mhm.
You don't say, well, we shouldn't make the playoffs because we got 6 points against 17 string goalies. Who cares? Nobody's given them back. Ovi doesn't take his name out of the record books and says, sorry, guys, they scored 8 more empty netters than Gretzky did. They shouldn't count.
Yeah.
They all count. It don't
That's how
matter.
it is. Yeah.
Put your cheesy analogy here. They all work.
Mhm.
but stretches of the third period, we were all over them. I love the compete. I love the fight. I love that these young kids are too young to know better and don't know when to stop trying.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, right? Because if this was the Maple Queefs, maybe they fold up like a cheap suit and go home. Our guys don't know any different. It's good to see, and let's hot take number one, not a hot take.
Mhm.
Putting Slavkovsky on that second line has
Mhm.
been a resurge in his career.
Yeah.
He has cemented himself as a true kid learning the game on the fly.
Mhm.
Didn't take a demotion to say the second line as a problem. He took it as a chance to grow and prove that he can be a driving force and not a passenger. And
Mhm.
the kid has been absolutely dynamite. And he had another couple of points tonight. Demidov had another couple of points tonight. And,
I
you
think
know,
I think though I think he took it a little different, and I think it might have been presented to him different. I think it might have presented to him the chance to, instead of being the third guy on the top line, I think it gave him a chance to be the number one guy on the second line. And I think he's feeding off that because he's driving play, he's making things happen, he's playing a lot bigger, he's playing to his size, and he's using his size uh more to what he should be doing.
he is now manhandling people off the puck.
Yeah.
And when he cycles the puck now, this might not be the analogy Hab fans want to hear, but he reminds me of Joel Armia. Joel Armia, you could say a lot of things, but man, could that guy control, cycle, and protect the puck. And Slav is starting to do the same thing. So, all the things that we wanted him to be in a prototypical power forward, he is turning out to that.
Mhm.
We just had to wait for his mind and his body to develop into the muscle to
Yeah.
play the game at the level that he's playing.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's enjoyable to watch. It really is.
And I think not being in Caulfield and Suzuki's shadow has shed light on him and maybe clicked in his own head, hey, I can be the guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, and again, whether you want to call it line 1A or 1-2 or
Yeah.
1A 1B, I mean, they're playing like two top lines because that line has been on fire. I mean, with
Yeah.
the 2 points tonight, Demidov now I think is 3 points clear of the rookie scoring lead.
Mhm.
So, I mean, good for the three of them to have that chemistry because ultimately that's what we need. When you make
Mhm.
changes, you want the changes to work. Um, am I sold on Bolduc being on that number one line? He's got runs in 3 and 4 games where you think that's the guy, and then he has runs of five
Mhm.
or six games where you say, does he even own skates?
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I was kind of in the same mindset as you. I was actually, that was the next point I was going to bring up and ask you. Bull Duke, like you say, he has his moments. I'm wondering if personally I would like to see them try Texier up there. I think that would be a nice combination.
yeah, I mean, he has a good release. He plays with a little bit of grit. Um, I'm gonna go a little bit old school and throw a name out there, and I'm just trying to balance. And if you take one guy off one line, you got to replace him with another guy on another line. And a guy who's been skating very well the last 6 or 7 games is Josh Anderson.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be opposed to putting that big body on there because he seems to be having a little bit more offensive flair in his game. I'm not opposed to that.
Mhm.
It wouldn't hurt to give him a period up there and just say, look, kid, here's your chance to reestablish a spot in the top six. We want you to be here. Prove that you belong with these two guys.
Mhm.
Because if you go back to the NHL or the Montreal Canadiens skills from last year, he had the fastest skate. So
Really,
he
I
can
didn't know that.
skate. Yeah, he can skate. It's just whether or not he can put the polish on the right silver when it comes to putting the puck in the net.
Yeah. And if nothing else fails, maybe he gets a showcase for a trade. Maybe it helps us out that way too, right?
There's never a lost cause when you're experimenting, unless you're going to say, Demidov, we want you to go play on the fourth line and play 6 minutes. That we already know that's going to be a colossal failure. But
Yeah.
if you're trying to balance lines, until some of these other guys come back, because maybe Kirby Doc is your answer as a right winger on that first line,
Mhm.
because he had original uh, chemistry with Suzuki and Caulfield before. Maybe he goes back to that de facto right winger. and you take the pressure off him from being a centerman since Kapanen's had a resurgence. And we have yet to talk about, but breaking news: Philippe Deneau is back.
Mhm.
So with another centerman in the mix, maybe we can shift Doc to a wing where maybe he's a little bit more protected in the open ice stuff.
I'd like to ship him right out of town, to be honest with you, but
Well, that might not be too far out of the radar if all these guys get healthy at one point because we can't have a roster of 30 guys.
yeah. Um, so yeah, Montreal, like I said, lose 5-4 in the shootout. Um, I think again, other than like you say, they fought back and earned the point, stole the point, whatever. You know, listen, I'm not upset with tonight's game, really. I think overall it was a pretty good game.
Overall, I would agree. Our power play lacked a little bit of early going chemistry. We had some good looks, just didn't score. Tampa's a team that takes a lot of penalties. The broadcast unit through the Toronto Sports Network had made comment that Tampa is one of the most penalized teams. And last night in Florida, they gave up 10 power plays. I think we had 7 tonight. Um, when you're presented with gifts like that, you got to score. We didn't, and maybe we need to readjust either the personalities on that or the drive behind the open look, the bumper pass, the one-time shot. Something's got to change because if it's not working after 3 or 4 attempts in one game, got to find a plan B.
Yeah, because
And
to me,
I mean, we
that's a sign that the other teams have adapted and figured something out, and you need to throw something new at them.
yeah, and sometimes every Superman has a kryptonite, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a reality. So you can take it for whatever which way you want, but unlucky regardless. And you can say we stole a point. I'm okay with that in theory, because we were down and came back. But I thought for most of the game we dominated in shots. I think it was 37-23. We were the much better team for most of the game.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we're going to jump into today's topic, which is basically the general news over the last week to 2 weeks of what's happening. We've got a lot to cover here, I think. So we'll try to get it all in as quick as we can. I've made a little short list here of things to talk about. I guess we'll start off, as you already touched on, we'll start off with the welcome home to no.
Yeah, Pizza Man. If you follow all those clips from the bubble time, Pizza Man is back. Philippe Deneau has been reacquired by the Habs. Came in only for a second round draft pick. I know LA was probably hoping to get more. Offers were there from other teams, but obviously teams wanting to take on his 5.5 million wanted to send more money out the other way, and LA wasn't in that position. So they'll use that money elsewhere in another trade and maybe can send a couple assets elsewhere and acquire a salary. It didn't have to be a today and tomorrow kind of trade. It could be an after the Olympic break if they stay status quo with where they're at. So Deneau is back. And in case you have been living under a rock and maybe were snowed in and didn't have access to internet or cable, Jacob Fowler has played a nice run of games for us since his recall. So we can touch base on that. What does that mean? Do we have the perceived goalie controversy? Because now, for other news, Sam Montembeault was recalled and joined the team back and was actually the backup goalie tonight in Tampa. Which I will give my 2 cents when we talk about the
Yeah.
Monty thing. So we've got an extra goalie on the roster. And we've lost Jake Evans to an injury. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. So some major pieces with some major moves, and maybe a sign of other moves to come because I don't think Hugo are done.
No, and I think one of the greatest mysteries to me is why is Sammy the backup? Like you've got, I mean, maybe there's something that we don't know. Maybe there's something brewing. Maybe there's, you know, it could be various things, but it boggles my mind. It's a total, it's a mystery, I guess. It's one of those things.
Yeah,
I have no clue.
I'm dumbfounded because as the story goes for everybody that knows, Fowler was recalled before Christmas. It was an emergency recall based on a conditioning stint for Monty. He went down and played 2 games in Laval
Mhm.
and lost them both.
Yeah.
One he lost 5-2. One was an empty net goal. The other one he lost 2-0. One was an empty net goal. But he was on the bad side of 2 losses, and then he was recalled.
Yeah. Did he not lose 3 games down there? Did he not play
It,
3?
I think it was only 2, and we can or if you want to edit, we can. But either way, he was recalled. Now I don't know if they needed an extra guy to carry equipment off the plane, and
Mhm.
because of that, they decided to put him in net. But if you recall a goalie out of Laval and you send him down there for conditioning, and he could have played 5 games,
Mhm.
and you immediately call him back up because he's not winning, why in pray tell are we dressing him for an NHL game? If
That's
Fowler gets hurt or has a shit brick of a game, then we got to put that human pylon in.
yeah.
Like I just don't get it. And yes, you know, threatened to egg my house. I live in Boise, Idaho. Doesn't matter to me. Toilet paper my car.
Yeah.
I work at the In-N-Out Burger. You can do whatever you like.
Yeah.
But if he's not good enough to play, why are we dressing him? Call him back up. He rides the bench. He rides the
That's the
bus. He gets
mystery.
on the plane. It just makes
Yeah.
zero sense.
Yeah.
Or zero nickels, because as we
Yeah.
speak, both countries have outlawed the penny. So,
Yeah.
I mean, let's
Oh, the
call it nickels,
Americans
but
got rid of the penny now too?
they're on the verge of that. Yes, so
Oh wow.
they are following the lead of the North.
Woo. Um, okay,
But
so
yeah, so Fowler plays again. I would suspect that we're back in action. I think this week. I think on Tuesday or Thursday. I would think Dobish would get the call. It doesn't make sense if you're playing Monty because we're playing Florida.
yeah,
Now, I hope this isn't well, he used to play for Florida and he's going to show them. Oh, yeah, he's going to show them that he can't stop a freaking beach ball.
you show them
You
how to
know,
turn the red light on.
he will show them how to get sunburnt in a state where it's full of sun.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing good that's going to come of that.
Yeah.
And hey, if
Hey,
he ends up
Fowler's a
playing,
Florida boy. Fowler's a Florida boy, so
yeah,
maybe
well,
he
he's a
gets the
he's
start too. So
yeah, he's a Florida boy.
yeah.
And fun fact for those that didn't know, Jacob Fowler is the first Florida-born resident to actually play net in an NHL game.
Wow.
So there's your fun fact for the night. Not a trivia question, but a fun fact.
Yeah. Okay. Again, the Monty thing, we could sit here all night and talk about that. But I think we'll probably just end up smashing our heads against the brick wall outside and, try to figure out how far they got their head up their ass. Um,
And while
but
we're talking about just last couple of roster moves, Blay was recalled from Laval as well, and Davidson and Beck were sent back. So there's kind of your hodgepodge of moves to try and get a roster semi decently at one level.
yeah. And you already mentioned Fowler playing. Let's talk about him becoming what he's becoming. Listen, he's just young. We know that. We're not, trying to overburden him with lots of pressure, but there's many comparisons to him and Carey Price. We hear it all. Maybe it's not fair. I don't know, but I think
Carrie who?
Fowler's, yeah, Carey
Carrie who?
Price.
I've never heard of that
Never
guy.
heard of that guy.
Was
Yeah.
he any good?
He was okay. He stopped 1 or 2 pucks. I mean, he wasn't the best, but anyways, so yeah, what
Oh,
what do you think? Like Fowler, I think he's handling the pressure pretty well, actually.
so yeah, so you bring the kid up, and because of the original stipulations on the number of games and days that he could be there, it was kind of, we talked about this before, it's feast or famine. You got to throw him in. You got to get a body of work that goes outside of 1 or 2 games. 1 or 2 games, he pitches a shutout, and then all of a sudden you say, well, here's the second coming of the Berlin Wall, and but that's not it. You've got to have more than one. He's played, I think, 7 games now. He's 4-1-2. uh Pretty good stats. I mean, we have the other kid, another Jacob Fowler, and we have Dobish, that he came in and went 6-0-1 in his first 7 starts. So 2 rookies that are proving that pressure is just a word to them. It doesn't necessarily affect them.
Mhm.
Fowler came in. He had to play Madison Square Gardens, came home and played one in Montreal. He
Mhm.
went to Boston, played in a good game there, and that's where he went to school. And now he's back home in his hometown state. So, and again, the kid didn't buckle. He didn't slam a stick over the crossbar. And call it what you like. He got us into an overtime or shootout result. So we still get a point out of it.
Mhm.
Am I impressed? I'm impressed. I think the kid is the real deal. All the stuff that they talked about, I think he's only going to get better.
Mhm.
Do I like his game? Overall, I do. I like his composure. I like his athleticism. I like his read on the puck. I like his rebound control. Um, he's a young kid, thinks he's Superman. So sometimes he's a little bit erratic.
Mhm.
The one thing that I don't like, the shootout tonight really bothered me. And I know I'm not a goaltender. I don't play one on TV. But I've been around the game. I've hung around enough arenas. I worked at, the South Oshawa Staple Harmon Park Arena as a rink rat, Children's Arena, watched all these rep hockey games played, hung out with the Generals. I've done it all. I think he collapses a little bit too quick and too low when
Mhm.
he backs himself into his net. So he gives away a large part, and he's not dobish big.
Mhm.
So I think he's got to stay a little bit upright, even if he goes down, because he collapses way down rather than projecting himself high.
Mhm.
But that's going to come with time and a goalie coach showing him video and working through it, getting him to adjust his mannerisms so that he's thinking about that the next time.
Yeah.
But again, 7 games, the body of work is there, and he's not been one to fold up and play terrible. So, I'm optimistic that between him and Dobish, we've got the two-headed Jake the Snake thing going. And these guys can ride out, whether it's a 50-30, 40-40, 60-20, however they have to do it. I think we're in good hands.
Yeah. And I think people need to not panic. I mean, we've said it many times this year about don't panic, don't panic. But don't panic with Fowler if he hits a rough spot. It's going to happen. There's going to be growing pains. A lot of people seem to think that when Carey Price got here, it was all rainbows and ponies from day one. He got sent back down to the AHL for a stint for a bit too. So I mean, to the best of them, it happens to the best of them, and it's going
And
to happen to Fowler.
he lost his starting gig to some Yaroslav Halak guy
Yeah.
who's got a few NHL games under his belt. And when they traded Halak, there was a lot of people calling to burn down the Bell Center because we traded the wrong guy.
Hmm.
Carey was always the guy. At some point, they had to make a definitive choice. We either give it to one or we give it to the other. Youth was always going to win outright. And you talked about that Carey Price guy being okay. He just happens to be our franchise leader in wins.
Hmm.
So I guess he's done all right.
A right
So
decision was made somewhere.
somebody drank the right Kool Aid that day.
So let's talk a little bit about our prospect pool. We've had a little bit of news emerge over the last couple of weeks as well. The Pickford signing. Let's start with the Pickford signing because that guy,
Yeah,
he's becoming something special in the WHL.
yeah. I mean, okay. So I have a different opinion. I don't want people to not be super hot to trot for this. The kid looks like he's putting up stealth numbers, but we got to remember it's still junior hockey.
Mhm.
And, you know, when you're an 18 or a 19-year-old playing against 16 and 17-year-olds, that 19 or 20-year-old guy's already started to mature. A lot of these young kids haven't. So it's no different than a rookie coming into the NHL and now playing against the Zdeno Charas and Dustin Bufflins and the Arbor Jack guys, the big strong guys that are coming at you way harder than anything you've seen in junior.
Mhm.
That being said, you still have to have a talent. This kid's got a talent. He
Mhm.
has put the weight of the world of that team on his shoulders, and
Yeah.
he just seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah.
So I think at last look, he was already over 20 goals already in the WHL, and that's stellar numbers for
Yeah.
any player, let alone a defenseman.
So he's actually got 27 goals, 22 assists, 49 points. So plus 36. He's actually leading the WHL in goals. I'm not talking about defensemen. I'm talking about all players, defenseman
Yeah,
or forward, which
yeah,
is uh, a pretty good feat all on its own. But to be doing that as a defenseman, but I think he's a year older than a lot of the kids he's playing against as well, which makes a big difference. And like you say, you know, playing as I don't know, you'd call him an overager, but playing as one of the older kids in junior and transferring that skill into the NHL is a wait and see, but there's optimism, right?
Yeah, and he's also the captain of his franchise.
Yeah.
So, with great roles comes great responsibility, and when you're doing that as well, you expect a more mature kid to lead by example. He's done that. He's wearing a letter. It doesn't mean he's coming into Montreal or Laval and going to don a letter on his shirt there. But it just goes to show the maturity of the kid.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show the type of prospects that we find ourselves drafting over and over again.
Yeah.
And again, like you say, it's a prospect. I'd rather him be in our pool than the other guys.
Mhm.
There's 31 other teams that had a chance to get him and didn't. It's kind of like the Lane Hudson scenario. Could we strike lightning in the bottle twice with D-men that nobody wanted? Let's hope,
Mhm.
because it just adds that second tier depth. Do I see him here in Montreal next year? No, I think he'll be like Ryan Bacher. He'll go 1 year at least in the minors, and
And
you know,
he should go there to give him time to adapt. Because, like you say, jumping from junior to pro hockey is a big step, and you need to ease into it. You need to get some seasoning, right?
and there's not many Matthew Schaefers, right? Shout out to the kid in the aisle who came right out of being drafted right into the NHL and he's
Mhm.
hanging tight.
Right.
Let's remember Pickford was drafted and has gone back for a year junior. So, like you say, he's a little bit older, but
Mhm.
again, a name in the news, and he's drafted by the red, white, and blue guys.
Yeah. The next name I want to bring up, I want to talk about Zurovsky out of Russia. Apparently, now I'm going to give a little bit of a qualifying statement. He's playing a lot more ice time than Demidov was when Demidov was playing under that Rottenberg guy, but he's ahead of Demidov's pace in
Yeah,
scoring right now on a far worse team. So there's kind of a
yeah,
balance there, which there's more optimism there for me. Does that translate over to the NHL? The people I've watched on their reels and their news and podcasts say that as far as skill and speed goes, he's better than Demonov. He doesn't have
yeah.
Demonov's vision or brain for the game, but he's got a little more on the skill set.
Yeah, they say he's super skilled and he's got a little bit more natural aggression to drive the net.
Mhm.
We've seen Demidov transition a little bit this year from a guy who could thread the needle from 200 feet away to now a guy shooting the puck and finding that little needle and
Mhm.
scoring goals. That's a maturity thing. And, Zarovsky has that edge to him. He wants to score goals. He kind of reminds me in a different way of a young Ovechkin, as a Russian kid who has got lots of tools and doesn't care.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's getting 25% more ice average per game than Demidov did. But he's not just, he's almost 20% ahead in points from the same pace. So, comparable numbers. And again, on a much worse team. So when you're playing on a team that's not as good, you play from behind and you play out of your own end a lot more. But the kid, again, could be the steal of the draft
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah, which Montreal has seemed to have been doing quite well over the last few years. I'm going to bring up three more names. We'll talk, simultaneous. You hit it however you want to hit it. Let's talk about, to me, probably the three most prominent Habs prospects at the World Juniors. We have Atos Koivu in Finland. We've got LJ Mooney in Team USA, and of course Michael Hage playing for Team Canada, the overtime snipe the other night.
Well,
Which one do you
well,
want to
let, let,
focus on first?
let's start with Atos Koivu. Comes from a hockey pedigree. Grew up watching his dad. His dad was an okay guy by the name of Saku.
Mm,
Might have captained our franchise for 10 straight years,
yeah,
tying with Jean Beliveau. So he comes from a hockey pedigree who is familiar with the city and the expectations and the beloved fans that are attached to it. And he's matured a lot. Last year, he in some of his highlights, he was kind of erratic in scoring goals that weren't important goals.
mm,
But this year, he's all over it. I watched them play their first game. I think he had two goals. Just an impact player. Um, you know, do we expect to see him in Montreal next year? My guess is no. My guess is he's a guy that's probably going to play one more year in a Finnish elite league, play up in the big boys before trying to come over and make the roster. The European guys, we don't have to push to come to Laval. There's a different need for them. A lot of them like to stay home and be part of their culture, and I'm okay with that because you can't put everybody in Laval. You can't bring all your prospects into one place and then say, oh, by the way, you used to be the number one guy there. Now you're the number seven guy here.
Yeah.
So we still got to find ice and not in drinks, sheets of it where they can all get as many minutes as they can. So I hope he stays the one more year. We'll jump to the next guy,
Well,
Michael
before
Hay.
before we jump to the next guy, I just want to touch on Koivu. His development. There was questions of people when they picked him said, "Oh, a little bit of nepotism. They picked him because he's Saku's son and stuff like that." And people question. Well, some of them people that question it are now saying, whew, the way he's developed over the last 6 months, 8 months, it's looking more like a steal than it was a nepotism pick.
Yeah, I mean the fear was like you said, nepotism. We shouldn't have drafted him. I think he used that as motivation. These kids aren't oblivious. They're all over the internet. They're on Facebook, they're on X, they're on Instagram. They're looking at game reports. They're seeing all the same blog sites because they want to know.
Yeah,
Some kids use it to their advantage. Some kids curl up in the fetal position and roll around on the floor.
yeah,
This kid is using it as motivation,
yeah,
and it doesn't hurt when your dad's there barking at you at the same time, saying,
yeah.
"Okay, hey, you got there on your own. Now prove them you belong," and he's doing that.
Um, LJ Mooney, let's go with him. Do you want to hit him next?
Okay, LJ Mooney. Again, kid comes in. He plays with the U.S. program. Um, Last year had quite a run.
Mhm.
Was one of the key component offensive cogs that they had last year. I know the U.S. got off to a little bit of a slow start before a 6-3 win in game one. And then against Switzerland, they were down a couple of goals to rally to a 4-2 win there. Um, I think he's playing on their second line. Um, and I think large in part at this point has been relatively quiet. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. These short tournaments are all about finding a groove at the right time, and he was definitely a late bloomer last year as well. He wasn't the kid pouring on 6 points in a win over Belarus. He scored big goals for them last year. I hope he's given the same opportunity this year because he comes in with some flair, and the expectation is he's going to score goals.
Yeah. So right now, 19 games at this year at University of Minnesota. He's got 4 goals and 11 assists. Which as a rookie, uh, some
In the
people don't
NCAA,
necessarily.
that's big.
That's a big because I was going to say a lot of people don't understand the NCAA typically is not an offensive league to begin with. But as a rookie, you're putting up 15 points in 19 games, which you're about zero point 0.8 points per game. That's a big deal for a rookie. But
Let's talk about the same parallel that we just talked about Bryce Pickford playing against younger players. He's now the younger player coming in playing against young men because some of these guys are 22 and 23. So
yeah,
they've not only matured, they've matured physically and mentally.
yeah,
And he's playing against bigger, stronger guys as
mhm,
well. So,
yeah,
some of these, like Matthew Nyes was a college kid that's playing for the Leafs. He came out guns a blazing because he could handle the physicality and made the jump effortlessly.
uh-huh,
For a kid to have 15 points in 18 games at the NCAA, and he's playing in a big hockey program, he's got some skill, that's for sure.
yeah. Yeah. So I think, like you say, one side of two sides of the same coin. That's a good comparison between Pickford and Mooney. That from all sides of it, whether you're older doing well or younger doing well, you can look at the positives on all sides of it. Um, let's hit on Michael Hage. I'm just I've been on the Michael Hage bandwagon for a while. I don't know if it's the nostalgia with his, being a Montreal fan with, the horrible thing with his dad. I don't know what it is, but I took to the guy right away. And just real quick on his stats here, 20 games this year. Again, University of Michigan. He's got 10 goals, 18 assists. I think he's actually leading the NCAA in scoring. He was the other last week or whatever when I looked at it. I don't know if it's changed, but again, young guy. He's playing his second year, and I don't know. I think the guy's I can't miss.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a bit for those that don't know the whole story. His parents are originally from Montreal. He's born in Mississauga, so he's a GTA kid. And his parents did whatever they thought it was going to take to get him into the best programs at the youngest ages. Not every kid playing or growing up in Toronto gets a fair shake in the GTHL. And he was a smaller kid, but that doesn't mean one thing doesn't usually translate into another. He's played with the Chicago Steel. He's played down in the U.S. programs, hence his immediate impact into the University of Michigan. But he, before his draft year, he lost his dad in a drowning accident. And his mom and dad were diehard Montreal Canadiens fans. So we had a second pick in the draft in the first round. And if you haven't watched it, Google it, YouTube it. It's touching.
Yeah, it's pretty
It'll bring a tear to
emotional.
your eye. It's definitely an emotional moment, and the kid was drafted, and his just watching his mom stand there crying, and the reference to his dad, and even other people, guys that were in his section, they know the story. Your dad's looking down on you. I mean, that kid's going to carry that inspiration and motivation everywhere he goes until he finally gets to where he's believed he's going to be.
Yeah.
Last year he was the NCAA Rookie of the Year because of his impact with the University of Michigan. And you're right, he's off to he's on a tear,
Yeah.
a torrid pace, scoring big goals. And I sometimes you wonder if things are meant to be. He's got 4 points in 2 games with Canada after 2 wins. But in a year where we lose a legend, he's wearing an awful familiar number. If you're familiar with the Montreal Canadiens, because he's wearing number 29. So, you can call it a couple of double inspirations for that kid, but the kid's been money.
Yeah. And just real quick, you mentioned about his rookie year. Just to give a point of reference, his rookie year in 33 games, he had 13 goals, 21 assists, 34 points, which was over a point per game. He's actually ahead of that pace now. He's only 6 points back of that with 13 games to go. And there's nobody in their right mind would think he's not gonna to beat those numbers this year over last year. So
Yeah. And he's a guy that thrives in the moment. He is a big game guy. He's not a guy scoring the fifth goal in a 6-1 win. He's there. That overtime goal was, it was every bit of the kind of goal that you want your team to score. It was a goal scorer's goal. He just has a nose for the moment, and he definitely sees that. That's for sure.
and right now, as of 2 games played at the World Juniors. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists. He's tied for second in tournament scoring right now with 4 points. Um, he's a +2 as well, which is nice to see. I mean, you can be scoring all the goals and getting all the points you want, but if you're, -30, if you're on the ice for more goals against than you're putting in, that tells me a little more about your play and playing style. But he's on the positive side of all the stats.
Yeah, yeah. So, and not on the perceived number one line. So, you could say the same thing about Team Canada. They have a 1A and a 1B.
Mm.
The line of Michael Misa and Porter Martone seem to be the number one line, and Mr. Hage is playing with some other no-name guy, Gavin McKenna. His
Yeah,
name might be in the news a couple more times between now and June.
yeah.
But and playing well,
Mhm.
with Brady Martin. So they showed a lot of cohesion in the couple of preseason games and have stayed together. And again, a tournament like this, it's click and go, and they're clicking and going. That's for sure.
Yeah. Um, I would like to see I'd like to see the power play a little bit better if I can get on a little bit of a sidetrack. I wonder when the Leafs fired Savard, I hope Team Canada didn't hire him because the power play in Toronto was something filthy and Canada, I don't know what it is, but anyways, that's sidetracked on my own personal note there. Um,
Yeah, and I would just give you an amen to that because it's a little bit on the frustration side. I mean, we're 2 wins in, and again, shouldn't be as tight as they are, but hey, we're 2 wins.
when's our next game? Is tomorrow against
The Florida Panthers,
no, I'm talking about World Juniors. Oh,
uh,
Denmark. Tomorrow against
Denmark,
Denmark. Yeah, our next game
Denmark. Sorry.
is against Florida on Tuesday night, I believe, is it not?
Yeah,
Tuesday night.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
so we are with the Montreal Canadiens at the start of a 5 game road trip, I believe. So it's Tampa, Florida, Carolina, and St. Louis. I think are four of the teams. So we've got to run tough games. So as much as you don't want to say, hey, 1 point is what 1 point is big, especially with the conference being so tight.
yeah. Yeah, so again, I think we had it earlier in the year. This is going to be another big hump in the season for us with this next string of 3 or 4 games. Like you say, it's going to be, the top tier teams we're playing against. We're going to see, you know, what level we're really at. I think we are we are approaching that level. I don't think we're quite there yet. I will be honest. I think we are in the upper echelon, but I don't think we are, Carolinas, obviously Colorado. I think we got a little bit of work to get there yet.
Yeah, and but again, I think there's probably another de facto move coming.
Mhm.
The longer Engstrom stays up and plays with us, now we're scratching a D man,
Mhm.
and we're scratching a D man, and Gooley's still out.
Yeah.
So when Gooley comes back, you're not scratching two guys; you're moving on from one. You're not sending him down to Laval. You're going to turn that into a tangible asset.
Yeah.
You can send any of Jack Eye, Struble, or I don't know about Struble, but Jack Eye or Engstrom down to the minors because they have waiver clearance. But at this point, you're better off to trade one of them. And whether that's trade one for a fifth round pick and another defenseman from the minors to fill his spot in Laval, we're going to make a move. So I think there's a sign of bigger things to come. Do I expect it to happen before the Olympic break? No, I think teams will try and gather as many points, and then they have that proverbial freeze again, sort of like the Christmas freeze. And teams will be burning up the lines trying to say, okay, we're definitely out now because we've got another 7 or 9 games in. We're out. Let's move on from guys. So, you know, unless our general manager pulls a rabbit out of the hat again,
Yeah.
which at this point he's done time and time again.
Anything's
Um,
possible. Yeah.
anything is possible.
I see I agree with you. I definitely see a trade coming. When is it coming? Honestly, I think it's going to come before the Olympic break. I think we're in a little 1 month window here now, 1 5 week window where there's lots of time for teams are going to start falling off. Players are going to start getting, disgruntled in their situations and are going to want to make some moves happen early enough that they can get geared up with the team they're going to make a difference. But I see a bigger multiplayer trade coming because we don't it's we can't really do a 1 for 1. I mean, realistically we could, but then we're going to still be in the same problem of having 8 NHL defensemen. Well, no team's going to carry 8 NHL defensemen, 7 at the most. We're going to start getting into forwards with injured players coming back. We just don't have the space, and it's not fair to the team, and it's not fair to those players. I see a 2 for 1, 3 for 1, 3 for 2 kind of. I see a bigger move happening.
Yeah, I mean you're right. I mean, long rumored is that the Jaden Struble and and Brendan Gallagher for Connor McDavid. So I think it's just a matter of time before we pull the trigger on that. I mean, you have fans that propose this shit in these Facebook groups.
Yeah,
Come on, please. I mean, I like comedy like the next guy, but
yeah,
let's be honest, that's not the trade, folks. Like, we're not getting unless they throw in Zach Hyman, we're not making that deal. No, but I think once you establish and we picked up Texier for nothing, right? He was a dump by St. Louis and we signed him. So when Gooley comes back, when Doc comes back, if Line comes back, we still got New Hook that's out. You bring 4 guys back, you got to find room for four guys.
Mhm.
You can't send four guys to Laval. Some of them are getting claimed, so
Mhm.
you might as well make a deal.
Yeah.
So at some point, and then you've got the whole Monty thing, so you could have a goalie in there as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm okay if we trade him for a Klondike bar,
Mhm.
you know,
I like ice cream.
yeah, or a slushy machine. I'm sure there's a defunct 7-Eleven somewhere that's got one kicking around we can get. Um, you know, but we there's something we can definitely do for that. So there's going to be a trade or two before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Do I think we're a team that's pushing for Stanley Cup glory today?
Yeah.
No, but let's throw a can of worms. Does that guy that wears number 87 for the Penguins, does he finally become available at that point in the season? I had that
I'm hearing lots of
conversation.
chatter of that coming up again, that, Pittsburgh's falling off, and Crosby saying, he doesn't want to go. I mean, but that's the pro that he is, saying the right things. I mean, only Crosby and his family and his agent know what he really feels. And really that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be out, you know, working against your own team. That's just poor sportsmanship. That's not being a pro. And that's just, to me, another reason why Crosby needs to be in Montreal. Does it happen? Hey, I would love it. I'd sign the paperwork all day, but it's what
Yeah, but let's be honest. If we're pulling off a trade like that, we have the assets.
yeah,
But I'm going to tell you right now, folks, you want Sidney Crosby, it's going to cost you something.
it's gonna hurt.
And with
Yeah.
and with the way that our prospects are playing,
Mhm.
they're going to start the conversation with Michael Hage.
Mhm.
That's going to be where this starts. And we just said how fantastic the kid is
Yeah.
with the backstory. And there's no way we're trading that kid. There's
Yeah.
no way. He's not going to be happy that he was drafted by the team that is dying, is deceased father loved. He wants to play for the team. He wants to have a skate on the ice at the Bell Center with his name on the back of that jersey. Montreal would never trade him.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean that's where the trade dies, but we have assets. What are you prepared to give up?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to give up
Yeah.
something on and again, I don't want to make the trade because I don't want to sacrifice 7 years of up and coming talent for 3 years of Sid, and Sid's fantastic,
Mhm.
one of the best players of all time. But if they ask for Hage and you say no, they're going to say, well, we want Kapanen.
Yeah.
Is that the guy you want to lose? If
Look,
it's Kapanen plus Struble plus two draft picks, I'm in.
yeah.
But if it's Struble, if it's Kapanen, if it's one more roster player, not Line, I mean they can have Line, but
Mhm.
if they're trying to take three young players, there's no way we're making that deal.
No. Well, look at it this way. I like to break it down this way. In past episodes, we've talked about, our untouchables, which would obviously be, our Suzuki, Demidov, Hudson, that kind of thing, right? But if you go the next tier of players that you would say, even if you broke it down into four, if there's four players that you would say you wouldn't trade for Crosby, and there's four players that you say, oh, I'll trade for Crosby. Well, you can be pretty sure the four that you are willing to trade, Pittsburgh does not want.
They'll take them
Of the four you don't want to trade, you can be guaranteed they want one of them,
or two of them
not two, and then some sort of
because
combination of the other four and draft picks. So it's going to hurt. You're going to have to give something up. So for people to have an unrealistic expectation of we're going to trade, Line A, Sammy Blay, and Sammy Montembeau for Sidney Crosby, you're in dream world. You're off in la la land. It's going to hurt,
EA Sports wouldn't even approve that trade.
and they're a
You
little
know,
loose with the rules.
yeah, maybe in television hockey from the '80s might allow that
Yeah,
to
yeah.
happen, but
Sam Pollock could make it happen, but
yeah, I mean, they're going to say Hage, and you're going to say no. They're going to say Zarovsky.
yeah,
Is that where you want to start? Because I guarantee NHL teams and general managers and scouts are not that dumb anymore.
no.
So if you're saying no, 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 we don't want to lose this guy, and then they ask for the next guy, and you're like, well, we don't. They're just going to say we'll find somebody that
Uh,
will then.
they're going to say when you get serious, call us back.
Yeah.
Is what
If
they're
he's
going to
still
say.
here, we'll talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
You know,
okay.
but again,
Final
I agree.
thoughts.
Final thoughts. I like the direction that we're going. I like the effort tonight. I like the emergence of Slavkovsky and the newfound polish that that Slav has brought to his game. with Demidov. The two of them together on the same line, I love it.
Mhm.
And if you didn't catch a lot of news, you would have saw the whole Demidov and Hudson playing on an outdoor rink in Montreal on Christmas Day. I mean, these kids have a lot of passion that showed in the game tonight. So we can't keep putting ourselves in a pickle playing from behind all the time. At some point, Cinderella doesn't go to the ball, folks.
Mhm.
But this next week, the next week worth of games, the next 5 games are going to be setting us up for what is going to be the key turning point, because we're playing some heavyweights,
Yeah.
you know, and it's going to outline what we need to do. I'd like to say, before we come back or whatever, we come back 3-2. But again, we got to stop in Dallas in there as well. So Florida, Dallas, Carolina, um,
It's a tough
Tampa,
three. Uh,
and St. Louis. I mean, there's
yeah.
there's there's some big games there.
Mhm.
But overall, even if we only get a win against St. Louis and the 1 point here, and we lose 3 games, we're not losing to 3 doormats.
Mhm.
So, it's gonna be a telltale sign. But overall, I'm encouraged by everything that's happened in the last 2 weeks.
I'm just going to do a real quick rapid fire. Uh, Philip Deneau, I like the move. I like the trade. I like bringing him back. I think it's a morale boost more than anything. I don't expect him to be a top line guy. I don't think anybody does. I expect it's more of a depth move and more of a positional, specific, on that draw. Um, Monty, it, I'm still blown away by that. I think the problem is obviously, the limits on the conditioning stint, 5 games, 14 days. I think they had to bring him back up. I don't think they had to bring him back up right away. Why they brought him up now, why they've dressed him as the backup, I don't know. At some point, he's going to be sent back down, and I honestly think he's going to clear waivers. I don't know that somebody's going to claim him or not. I mean, if they do, I'm not going to be upset, but um, Fowler's emergence, I'm I'm more than happy with what's going on. I like the direction he's going. I think they're playing him in right situations, giving him the chance to succeed. Our prospect pool, I think our prospect pool is unlike no other prospect pool right now. I think we're the top prospect pool in the NHL. Um, they're not all going to play with Montreal. Some of them are going to go. It's just a matter of who and what you get back for them. So that would be my final thoughts. I think I agree. I like the direction we're going. I think we're on a upward trajectory. I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't think we're into that top five where teams dread coming in. Oh God, we got to go play the Habs. You know what I mean? I think they're come in and say, "Whew, we got our work cut out for us tonight." But I don't think they're in fear like going into Colorado.
I would agree. And just to quickly touch base, that's why Deneau was brought in. A little bit left-handed shot centerman, good on the draw, mature player to help out.
Okay, so on that, let's crack a beer and get on to the trivia.
Trivia answer for tonight is maybe a little bit of a surprise, because everybody's probably going to pick that dirty prick Kucherov as their answer. The answer is Victor Hedman,
Ah,
another guy we love to hate.
yeah,
10 goals and 41 assists. So he leads all current Tampa Bay Lightning players with 51 points
yeah.
against us.
And we don't like Victor Hedman either.
No, no.
Anyways, so that wraps up today's episode. Again, thanks, Steve. A lot of good discussion. Basically, gets you all caught up. I think our next episode, we're going to try to bang off in the next day or two. We're going to talk about the Olympic roster with the announcements coming up, I think, in 3 days, I believe it is.
Yeah,
Um,
New Year's Eve, all rosters have to be finalized. I would imagine most countries will do it the same day.
yeah.
I don't know that they'll all wait till the 11th hour.
Mm,
This not, hopefully TSN doesn't turn this into like a trade deadline episode where they're beating us down for 14 hours. But
mm.
we'll try and get our early predictions in beforehand, and see how close we are the next episode.
Okay. So again, thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate the support. Remember to hit the subscribe button and like, and let us know what you think. I think we're over 40 subscribers now. I think the next number we're going to shoot for, is get a big number. See if we can get to 100 here pretty quickly. Thanks for your support and keep on watching.
And like always, keep your stick on the ice.